Due to some technical difficulties when recording our ATX discussion for this episode, this week is going to be cut a little short, and instead is going to focus on our discussion of the show Platonic. We will be recording a separate segment for our ATX discussion, and it'll either be released as next week's episode or as its own segment. Sorry for the inconvenience, and hope you enjoy. Episode 438 of the TV Dudes, Platonic.
Before we get to all that, it's as usual. We're going to talk about our appetizers. We're going to talk about the shows we watched this week. And Nick, why don't you kick us off?
Oh, I watched everything Les watched, and then very little of my own shit.
I thought since you were to the TV Fest, you might have more stuff this week.
Oh no, I had a with my laptop out,
Right.
I had to switch over to different viewing stuff, and I had more work to do this week other than that, recording wise. But I did end up watching on Max. There is what's it called? Unicorn Eternal Warriors. The new Tartakovsky animated show.
Oh, okay.
And it is.
And I caught part of that over your shoulder. It looked pretty rad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Basically, the premise of it is evil made by Morgan Le Fay and Merlin. Make sure that the heroes that once defeated her are reincarnated every generation in order to fight the evil again. Like, they just keep getting reincarnated over the years. He grabs a robot from the future to do so. Is a roly-poly steampunk robot named Copernicus, and he's awesome.
Looks like
and I
TikTok
love
from
him.
Return to Oz.
He looks
Cool.
He looks great. Everything about him is awesome. And this particular one, the bad guys try and take out Copernicus before he resurrects he activates the reincarnation in people, and they normally are adults, and this time around they're too early and they're kids, and that seems to be like causing a problem, which I was telling Les, I'm like, I like the idea that children are bonded enough or have like a morality of a black and white, like, no, I'm very much me, like they have a very much bigger sense of self and cannot be share a body with another soul very well. I like that idea. One of them is a elf dude that is pretty boring, honestly. He's just kind of a generic leader. One of them is this kind of time monk that can see through all of time, but since he's reincarnated as a kid, he can only see like the future stuff. Like, they have to keep him from running into walls because he can't actually see what's in front of him. He keeps seeing all of time at all at once. And then there's like this black magic kind of witch lady that is on one level not the girl she's incarnated in, and sometimes is not. And also she's getting married, which is weird of like how the younger aspect of it is, but I'm like, actually this is set in a steampunk like Victorian area, so that could still mean she's like 13 or 14, even though she's getting married to some other dude.
I don't like that.
The whole style of it looks somewhere between a Popeye, like old Fleischer animation,
Mm-hmm.
and Return to Oz. It's fucking crazy looking.
Have you ever seen Cuphead? That video game Cuphead?
Yeah,
It kind of looks like that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of got that vibe. Like, I was like, is this Cuphead? I'm like, nope, this is Unicorn Eternal Warriors. Yeah, sure, okay. Tartakovsky, you had me at Tartakovsky.
Okay, all right.
It looks pretty cool as far as any designs that didn't make it into Samurai Jack. They ended up here. Like, everything is a mishmash of like future science and magic, and even the future, like even the London they're in, this Victorian London, is very steampunky and kind of weird. But yeah, I greatly enjoyed it. I'm probably gonna finish that out. I watched some more Rick and Morty. Me and Les actually finished off the final season, and I went back and watched some of the previous seasons as well.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's the new season that's on Max now?
Yep,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with Adult Swim. Like, it's like the Columbia House of Shows. It just wait until you forget it's on, and then
Yeah. I guess I need to go check that out. Yeah.
I love that the most hipster block of programming requires me to get cable.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
I guess I could watch it like on their website maybe. I don't know. I'm not watching the TV like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
yeah. As far as man, Dan Harmon has definitely got more going on than Justin Roiland compared to Solar Opposites and what like because there's a whole Story Lord comes back from the Story Train episode, and that whole episode is basically about like taking notes from like in the writer's room.
Yeah, yeah.
And is very like, I am so sick of getting that note about trying to have self-contained adventures.
Somebody straight up
Like,
looks at Rick and like, you should do stuff more like season 1, man. Like, I
yeah,
hate
like,
that note. What the fuck
so
does that even
what
mean?
does that even mean? Fuck you. Yeah, and they actually kind of have a if there's any like there's like a reverence and respect that Dan Harmon seems to have for therapy, because the therapist actually comes across as like a consistent and not ridiculous element of the show.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With I think shows like obviously Dan Harmon has definitely been to therapy for better or worse. Like if it's I don't know if it's working or not, because it seems like he's working shit out on his shows all the time anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that they do some character development for Rick, that they don't just tank at the very end, as far as him trying to like change and do a little bit better.
Cool.
What else did we watch? Oh, I introduced the Less to the Shallows, the shark movie.
That's actually really good. Blake
Hell yeah, it
Lively
is.
basically is the entire show. And then the insane amount of money that they dropped on both the dead whale that's kind of the catalyst for how she gets stuck kind of being hunted by this shark, and also like the amount of money they spent on the effect for the shark. It looks fantastic and actually sets up a believable thing. It's not like a Jaws 3 thing of like, that shark's just insane and knows your family by sight and followed you down a coastline. Like, it's none of that shit. Like, there's not a lot. I mean, there's not a lot of people in the movie. There's not a lot of stuff she has on her character-wise. Like, she's just at a beach. They make a really good point of everything they show you or everything anybody says comes back up and or matters. It really, I don't know, economy of storytelling was awesome. Plus, seriously, the effects are fucking crazy. Yeah,
And
they do a
to,
good job of like actually like, okay, this is how you deal with this.
like the shark kill at the end is fucking amazing. Like, honestly, like I think Les, you turned to me in a movie during it. I was like, oh, this is a real movie. I'm like, I know you are used to like every shark movie you're watching.
It had shark. I mean, it has a shark in it. Like, I'm used to it being like the ghost of a avalanche desert shark, you know? And yeah, no, this is Blake Lively in a real movie.
This is on the level of Crawl or Beast. Like, this is like
it's the same director of the Evil Dead a few years ago. Not Evil Dead Rise, but the Evil Dead remake that came out. Remake. It's the same director as that.
Okay.
It is not saddled with being an Evil Dead movie, so if you didn't care for that one, you'll probably like this better. It's more of just like a movie.
All right.
But yeah, really good. I was shocked.
And then me and Les finished off Primo, and we really liked it.
Yep, that was great.
Anything else?
For me, I'm not, no. But for Les, I know he watched some stuff to prep for ATX Fest.
Well, for starters, I happened to be over at Fanny's while she was throwing on some comfort television for herself, and so we watched the Sex and the City episode where Samantha dates a guy with a penis that is too large. Very subtle and nuanced episode.
I sometimes, when people describe Sex and the City, which I watched every season of, by the way, it is sort of like a wow. That's a really that's how that came out. Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a fantastic show from If Looks Could Kill screenwriter Darren Star. I will never see, like, I showed Nick that Richard Grieco 80s movie a while back, If Looks Could Kill, and realized as the opening credits were rolling that, holy shit, this is written by the same writer as Sex and the City. Just awesome things you learn in credits. I watched, of course, some Elementary, some Parks and Rec, Primo, Rick and Morty. Lisa finished up Florida Man, so I watched some of the back half of it with her. He showed me The Shallows. I showed him PCU, which is not streaming anywhere.
Probably for a reason.
For good reasons. So many
right.
90s reasons. Every 90s reason imaginable.
I completely forgot about that movie.
If Animal House had Jeremy Piven and David Spade at the helm. Yeah, the Jon Favreau, like the cast is insane. George Clinton and P-Funk are in it. That said, it is so 90s it fucking hurts, man.
Given who all is in the cast, I think one of them is probably paying them not to put it on streaming.
Jessica Walter. Yeah, you know it's not it's not Piven. Like
Piven.
Yeah.
No, Piven's probably.
I suspect it's like I think Disney on Favreau's behalf. Like if he ever stops being part of the Disney fam.
Yeah, it is very much a movie that can only exist in a certain time period of the 90s where the biggest thing to worry about is political correctness going too far.
Yeah.
It's a pre-9/11 world.
Pat it on the head, you adorable bastards. Yeah, you think this is the worst thing happening. Okay. Yeah, so to get ready for interviews and such, I watched, for ATX Fest, I watched, I think the first 5 episodes out of 7 that I've got for Cruel Summer Season 2. Cruel Summer Season 1 was a freeform crime show last year. It was set in, I think right outside of Dallas, Texas, like in the 90s. It was exactly my area, my years of high school. It was just needle drops made for me. It was a really fun little crime show. Then they announced they were going to do an anthology of it, and we were all like, all right, what are they going to keep? Basically, they keep the trick of the show from season 1 of doing 3 time periods. So you get like summer 99, winter 99, summer 2000. And as the time periods get you get a little bit of them each episode. They're color graded and costumed and hair and everything drastically different because you're getting this crime in like 3 stories that grow closer together as the season goes on. And it manages to do kind of what Class of 09 was doing, but keep it all together and make it all feel like one story. So you don't feel like you're watching 3 separate stories. You feel like you're getting little clue drops of like where they are here, and then you'll see the fallout from it, and then you'll see, or like halfway through the fallout. Season 2 is set in Seattle in 99, and it was really cool so far. It'll be on Freeform, just dropped on Freeform. And so I got to interview the cast and such from that. So I prepped for that. I actually listened to a bunch of podcasts. Everybody would be so proud. I got the opportunity to interview all the ex-Nickelodeon, ex-Disney Channel stars that are all over Podco, which is a podcast company that runs like a Wizard of Waverly Place rewatch with some of the cast and crew, and a Ned's Declassified rewatch podcast with cast. They also have Brotherly Love, which is all of the Lawrence brothers. So I got to meet Joey Lawrence, Matthew Lawrence, and of course TJ Detweiler himself, Andy Lawrence. I was extremely excited for all of that. In fact, I think I annoyed everybody. I was ridiculously excited. Nobody else I mentioned it to was nearly as stoked as me to meet all the Lawrences. Fuck all of you. It's fucking awesome. Then, of course, Podco's co-founder is Courtney Chrissy Carlson Romano, who was Kim Possible. So she was cool to talk to. They were all great. The Cruel Summer cast was all great. Also, got to see the Everyone is Doing Great season 2 premiere and interview all of them. Kind of took it easy on interviews this year, so that was really about it. Then, of course, I watched Soups and Lois. Lois just had a double mastectomy, so that's going great.
That is such a... Every time you tell me what's going on with Superman and Lois, I'm like, this is the weirdest thing to do with what is your final season.
Bruno Mannheim's wife just died, and Lois had a double mastectomy. Super cheerful. Super cheerful season.
What the fuck is going on?
We're a long way from overriding all the minds on Earth with Kryptonians, man. That said, it's been a really great season.
Okay, all right.
I'm afraid it's going to end Soups and Lois, given that CW is undergoing quite a bit of change, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And that's been about it.
All right. I am still slowly making my way through Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 7. I watched episodes 9 and 10, which are both really, really good. They did a weird... I don't know if y'all know about Vic Fontaine, a character in Deep Space Nine who is a crooner who exists on the holodeck. He's like a like Sammy Davis Jr. That the Rat Pack
Mm-hmm.
type guy, and
Okay.
he exists in a hollow suite, and it's like a swinging '60s Vegas thing that they occasionally go to. So there's an episode where Rom, the young Ferengi,
Space Knight.
nope, uh, he's the sort of go-getter, eager Ferengi who joined Starfleet, and in a previous episode, there's a war episode, and he gets injured and loses his leg, and they fit him with a prosthetic, and he comes back, and he's like haunted by his wartime experience and depressed and mean. It's a completely different change for him. And this episode is about depressed and mean Rom, who's usually like light comic relief and plucky, being talked through his post-traumatic stress by a holographic crooner. No part of this sounds like it should be good. It should be terrible, but it really works, and I don't know why. But it was sometimes Deep Space Nine is doing things where I'm like, I don't know how this works, but it absolutely does.
I think they should use the holodeck for more therapy, honestly.
Seriously,
yeah.
I can't believe they don't do that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the holodeck's supposed to be.
But he's not a therapist, guys. He's a '60s crooner.
Hey, the programs could do whatever.
You can easily program, like, I would sneak program therapy into all the sessions.
Yes, that's a good idea, actually. It's like it's like wrapping a pill in peanut butter, but for humans.
Yes.
Like, you defeat Moriarty, but not without learning something about yourself along the way. Moriarty makes sure that the crime you solve has something to do with you confronting one of your faults.
No,
right.
I love the holodeck, but half the time when I make a bar, I just end up standing outside and talking to the bouncer all the time. It's weird.
I thought it was weird that Moriarty turned out to be the approval of my father. It was very strange, but it helped. And then I'm also watching The Good Place again. I'm burning through season 2. That show, man, I could watch that whole show in like a week, because I forget how short those seasons are and how easily it segues from one episode to like every episode is a cliffhanger, and and even though I know what happens next, I want to watch what happens next. As a rewatch, it is not unlike Ted Lasso. Like, I could burn through that show really quickly on a rewatch just because it's so satisfying. It's like a warm hug, and it's still funny to me. It still really works. I saw the wrap of White House Plumbers, which I wound up really liking that show. It gets kind of dark, but it's also very, very funny. And Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux just killed it in that show. I saw Across the Spider-Verse twice, and I watched Into the Spider-Verse right before that, so we'll talk about that. One of the panels I saw at ATX TV Fest was the Simpsons showrunner, the current showrunner of The Simpsons. And like most people, I have not watched The Simpsons in many, many years. But he made a good case for sort of the way that they do things, and was talking about some of their episodes. And I was like, oh, maybe I should check back in. So he recommended an episode called Lisa the Boy Scout, which is it's not on Disney Plus. It's on Hulu because of the weird vagaries of how the licensing works. I guess Simpsons, every episode except the current season is on Disney Plus, but the current season is only on Hulu.
Sure.
So yeah. So I watched it is the third episode of the 34th season of The Simpsons.
Right.
And he did say, he's like, it's not about Lisa becoming a Boy Scout. So that's like the opening, but within like a minute, the show is interrupted by a pair of anonymous style hackers. They both have the V for Vendetta mask, the voice changers, and they basically threaten Fox. They're like, look, we're going to release all these clips of Simpsons that will ruin your property. And then the whole show is them. It's a clip show of them releasing weird bits of Simpsons history that never happened. So there's a bit
that's right. You said he brought it up as the non-canon episode.
Oh, that's kind of awesome.
So,
okay.
For example, Lenny and Carl, I can't remember which one's Lenny and which one's Carl. I didn't write it on my arm. But one of them they're at Moe's bar, and it's like that's the end of an episode, and they're revealing that Lenny has always been a hallucination from Carl.
Yes.
That he's not real. And
real.
They're talking him out of it, and he's like, and then Carl or like Lenny fades away, and then a new friend fades in, and Moe's like, oh great, here we go again. It was just dumb shit like that, and is multiple sequences, and in between this, the two anonymous hackers lose their voice modulation, uncover their faces, realize they're falling in love, and start making out while showing clips to keep the people distracted. It's delightful, guys. It was such a
That
fun episode.
All right, yeah.
that's kind of awesome.
What is the show you said?
Yeah,
The
Simpsons?
Simpsons.
The Simpsons. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Long ago, I remember it like
But-
I remember college Spanish. Like,
Yeah.
In the way before.
yes.
But I had a couple friends when I posted about this say, "Oh yeah, Simpsons gotten good again lately." So I may drop back in and watch a few episodes of season 30 to 34 or whatever, which is insane to say. It's just that's like me saying I'm just going to catch up on CSI. It's crazy,
Right.
but I might because Lisa the Boy Scout was
All the
super
laws
fun.
and orders.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what else you can still do with these characters, but it turns out you can. And if you get kind of meta with it and enjoy the fact that they've been doing this for 30-some years and there's a joke there, it can still work. So I'm looking forward to checking out more of it. It was a very fun episode. Keeping up with Top Chef, which I am still really enjoying, even though I don't want anyone who's in there to win currently. I want someone else who already got eliminated. But they're in Paris. It's fun. They're making good food, and it's Padma's last season, so this will be the end of an era. I know all of that was nonsense to a pretty significant chunk of our audience, but there you go.
No, I think Padme also deserves a win,
Yes. That is actually the next
especially
Disney
after
show.
what happened with Naboo.
If Disney were to do a Star Wars themed cooking show set in the cantina, I would watch the shit out of that. They've got a whole set at Disneyland that people aren't using at night. Just close down Disneyland, shoot it at night. Just do a Top Chef Disney. It's money waiting to happen.
And now we go to the souffle with the Jawas. Ooh, tiki!
You could do like a Star Trek set, like Lower Deck style cooking show where it's like a painting competition where you're trying to use Midjourney. Like everybody just has a food replicator, and they got to figure out the query to get the.
A Gordon Ramsay types just yells at a bunch of sand people and they run away and to be like, don't worry, they frighten easily, but they'll be back and break the numbers.
It's funny.
They cook in single file to hide.
in Deep Space Nine, they've been talking about how replicated food tastes off. Like they actually go to the point where, like, yeah, I like to make my own food. There's Cisco's dad owns a New Orleans restaurant in on Earth, and he talks about like the replicated food doesn't taste right. And I'm like, they've never really done that in Star Trek, but I like the idea that it's fine, but you still want to cook real food because it touches in like.
Lower Decks has there's the good replicators and the not so good replicators, and the lower deckers get the not so good. Like, it's okay, but like the
but like
higher
the bridge
level
crew,
bridge crew get
it's
access
either like
to the
like a better plastic spool for your 3D printer, basically.
But I like the idea of that the people still cook in the Star Trek future, and Strange New Worlds did that too. That Pike has like a cooking night where he cooks food for everybody.
Can you imagine coming into the break room and it's smelling like fish? You're like, just use the replicator. Why would you bring fish and microwave it? Where did you even get a microwave or a fish?
And then it's that cat alien from the cartoon. Like, what? I did use the replicator.
What?
I replicated all the fish
and the microwave, and then I microwave the fish.
It is how my people eat, racist. And then I watched the first 4 episodes of American Born Chinese, which I really like the graphic novel. The show is Disneyfied a word? Because it feels a little Disneyfied. It feels a little bit like, I loved Big Shot. I liked Mighty Ducks, but it feels akin to that, and I wanted something like a different edge or a different type of thing with it. It's a little not quite where I want it to be, but Michelle Yeoh's in it. It's got a great cast. It's got some fantastic like kung fu stuff. It's solid, and we may talk about it in the future. And that is the extent of my my TV appetizers. Just a reminder, you can support us by going over to patreon.com/tvdudes. Throw us a buck an episode. In exchange, we get to keep all our streaming services, pay for our hosting costs, and you get bonus content each week. This week, we're talking about Across the Spider-Verse. Probably going to be a long one because I got a lot to say. And we'll be doing that as our patron. All right, and let's have our side dish. Let's talk about Platonic, the new show over on Apple Plus from the director of Neighbors, I think, and featuring Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne.
Nicholas Stoller and Francesca Del Banco, who also did Friends from College. I got to interview them for that show on AFF a couple of years ago. They also wrote and directed a couple of the Muppet movies.
I didn't like that show either.
I like Platonic a lot more than Friends from College, but yeah, we'll discuss.
Yeah. So my take on this. I'll give mine real quick because mine was pretty quick. I watched one episode. I really like Rose Byrne. I liked her a lot in Physical, and I found her really unlikable in this. And I think that was part of the problem. And I don't always like Seth Rogen. Like sometimes I like him. Usually, he kind of annoys me. And this whole premise of like how weird it is that a man and a woman are friends feels dated to me. I did enjoy seeing. I love seeing Carla Gallo from Undeclared as like her bestie. Like that's it's fun. It's fun seeing her, but there's not enough of her in that first episode. And this is
She's not
basically
in the show. Really?
Is she what? Is she?
I mean, like she turns up occasionally, but seriously,
But
her
it's
character does not exist.
Oh,
Her
She's
character
an
could be
afterthought.
a figment. Yeah, her character could be a figment of Rose Byrne's imagination, nearly.
oh, I don't like that. I was hoping there got to be more of her. Well, it
No,
definitely is winning me over.
she exists to be the only female relationship Rose Byrne has that isn't outright loathing.
Oh man,
Yeah, it feels like she's a rewrite after like the like a seventh pass where they realize Rose like wait, does Rose Byrne not have any woman in her life she doesn't
Like
downright
no
hate?
friends.
Okay,
so she hates all women, and also she doesn't have any male
I-
friends except for this one guy.
She doesn't
So
seem to have
I
any
really
friends.
think no. Yeah, I really think that the Platonic title is not purely like her and Rogan necessarily. Like all
It's
of the
about her
women
not
that
having
she
any
meets
friends.
are hyper competitive with her. Like they're either just in their mom world and like don't want, or they're in the work world doing both and lording that over. Like, but they're
Yeah,
every conversation she has with a woman is unpleasant and fake, and everybody wants out of it. Like all three people in a conversation on screen want out of it. And I looked at Nick and was like, "This has happened enough times that this has to be something the show's doing
on
on
purpose.
purpose."
You think. But I feel
Well,
like
see-
the woman that her friend adding is basically a fix it and in post of like fuck. Well, we didn't write in any like we wrote in male characters for him to have as friends, but we don't have any female characters. She doesn't have any friends at all.
That
Yeah.
said, so in the third episode, they go. Rose Byrne goes with her husband, who's a lawyer, and she used to be a lawyer, but quit to raise their 3 kids. And she goes with him. He's just made partner, and they go to a partner retreat. And Janet Varney's one of the other partners. I think who the other actors are. His law firm, like they are all weird. And he's weird in a different way, and you realize that Rose Byrne is a completely insane person who's just like buttoned it down for a while, and like the show really starts to take off. Like she has nothing to do with this partners retreat, and it's really awkward, and so she fucking bails and goes and gets hammered with Seth Rogen, and it, like the whole day just goes down. They should have started the show with her like the show could have easily opened with her going to the retreat, like the partners retreat, getting the message about him or seeing it on Instagram that he's divorced, and getting bored in the middle of the day and going to meet up with him. Then they could have just started the show at Ep 3 and it would have just taken off. But instead you get 2 episodes where honestly for the first episode I could not figure out when these 2 people would ever have been friends.
yeah,
Because Rose Byrne seems
there's
just
anti-chemistry.
not likable in the first episode. And I realize that sounds terrible. Like her character is played really, really weird and high strung.
Well,
And then in the
I don't
second
find-
episode, you start to see them hang out. Like I got a couple of laughs. And then in the third episode, I went, "Oh, here's the show. Cool."
Wow, that's interesting because I didn't like Seth Rogen either. Like I found Seth Rogen's character annoying as fuck in that first episode.
Yeah, I didn't like either of them in the first episode. We got a couple of laughs and waited a few. And today we were like, maybe we should watch a second one. And then by the end of the second one, it was like, all right, I laughed a couple more times. I'm going to hit play on the third one. And then the third one took off.
Okay, because I didn't laugh at all in that first episode, and I was like, does this get funny at any point?
I honestly, now that you know the premise and who they are, just start on the third episode. Just skip the second one. I don't
Yeah,
know
maybe
what
I'll
happens in
try
it.
it.
Just skip it.
Well, the second episode is basically her trying to buy that house, which is such a bad idea that like it
Oh my
just
lord.
it's like, man, you must not have any friends because anyone would have told you like not to do this.
Yeah. You've clearly never brought another human along with to see this shithole. Because Seth Rogen's like obviously the first human that went, you can't buy that though, right? I mean, seriously.
And you're not wrong, Randy. Like the idea that, like, especially Seth Rogen's friends keep telling him of like a man and a woman can't be friends. I'm like, when was this fucking written? This is so
what
right.
what year is this?
In the same way that I can't believe that someone walked into Apple TV pitch meeting and said, so it's a middle-aged white dude who's like, eh. And they greenlit that with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but what the fuck?
Yep.
And that's kind of how I felt with this. Was like, man, I really like Nicholas Stoller and Francesca Del Banco. I mean, I'm hit or miss on. They wrote a Muppet movie I love. They wrote Friends with College, which I didn't love. They're up and down. But did you guys seriously walk into a pitch room and say, "Men and women, am I right?"
Yeah,
and walk out with
so
like
90s.
An Apple TV amount of money.
Yeah, the amount of money is ridiculous. But Rose Byrne and Seth Rogen seem to be actually like actual friends, like in real life, and I think a lot of that chemistry is coming across.
Yeah, as they let their walls break down, their
there
chemistry
is no
is
sexual
really good.
chemistry between them, and it like she gets fucked up on ketamine in like.
In Seth Rogen's defense, he thought it was cocaine.
That's your defense?
The defense rests.
Okay. This is a barbitration. What are you not getting about that? The bar part.
Like, the show really does stick as they drag the other lawyers in and shit. The husband's fucking weird. But Nick and I we watched the first 2 episodes with Apple TV. Ted Lasso aside, has not built up the trust for this. I spent the first 2 episodes cringing, waiting for there to be some kind of romantic tension between Seth Rogen and Rose Byrne. And thank fucking God there's not.
Yeah, she gets fucked up on ketamine and sleeps over at his house, and there's not even a like lingering hand too long of like, no, these people have never wanted to fuck each other at all for whatever reason.
Her husband starts to get a little bit jealous and weird about it, and Nick and I were like, no. And then they resolved that by the episode. I mean, like, by the end of that episode, she's got her head on the husband's shoulder, and he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Seth Rogen's a complete fuck up. Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. And, like, so it does seem like the show is genuinely sticking with the, like, what's it take to stay friends or be friends or have friends as an adult. I wish they'd go, they're so close to really saying something new about adult friendships, which is that it doesn't matter what gender the other person is. Making friends is fucking tough as an adult.
Yeah, making friends is hard, so you want to just keep like a friend group, like a old friend you have is like a resource you might want to keep, because it is hard to make a new friend like that.
And the show's really close to doing something with this idea that, like, she doesn't have any real women friends. Like, it's not a matter of man or woman. Like, she hasn't made any real friends.
Mm-hmm. Because she is
and like there's something there.
You are a weird human being.
They also should start it in the 3rd episode, because in the 4th episode you realize that the husband has office friends and they're hilarious.
I think we've shown a lot of self-control not talking about our accent for this long about.
Yep. So we should. Oh my God. What the living shit, man.
Lest I talked about it in person, and her accent is fucking weird.
Her accent is genuinely insane.
That is Rose Byrne's actual accent now.
It's a mixture between Australian and American, because she's lived in America for long enough now to where you get a mix of accent, which is a thing that happens. But also, don't do that on TV. It's confusing and weird.
They had to put out an entire article explaining that that's her character's backstory, is being Australian but being in America too long.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I'm sorry, if you have to put out a separate article explaining it, Southland Tales, you fucked up. Don't do it.
She'll say can't and then can't in a different way.
In the same sentence.
In the same fucking... like, good Lord. And, yeah, and it's...
At one point, they're joking, making...
It takes 3 full episodes to get used to it.
Like, they're bleaching Seth Rogen's hair blonde in one episode, and he's like, starts doing this bad Australian accent. Oh, yeah, we're going to put some shrimps on the bottom. And she starts doing an Australian accent and can't.
And can't seem to do it, which is weird. What?
Like, it's not a joke in the scene. She just can't. Like, Nick looks over and was like, "Is that her? She sounds more British? You're going more British."
What is? Like, it's weird. Seth Rogen's accent sounds more Australian, but like less authentic. Like, it's I don't know.
It's weird.
It's funny to, like, when you hear it to your ears, it sounds insane because you've never heard anything like it.
I would pick up like the 3rd or 4th episode and watch, and if you get a laugh out of it, you might continue. I felt like the show started weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Janet
Well,
Varney does show up in Ep 3, and I would like
Yes.
that may have sold me on at least checking out episode 3. And the thing is, like, I want to like it. I've watched Seth Rogen shows and movies I've liked. I'm pretty sure.
Well, watching Janet Varney show up as Rose Byrne is having kind of a, did I do the right thing by quitting being a lawyer to be with my kids? And then Varney's just made partner, and
she's had her 4th kid.
And yeah, and Rose Byrne's like, oh yeah, well my 3 kids are okay, I mean, 3's a lot. And Varney's like, you're telling me I just had my 4th.
What?
And like like Rose Byrne just cold drops all like what?
Yeah, the fucking niceties stop. Although, less to your point of why Apple execs, which I can only assume are probably middle-aged, white, wealthy men, are greenlighting stories where the idea is a white dude in his 40s or 50s is just kind of not quite feeling it, while trying to, like, run his business or whatever and not struggle financially. Couldn't tell you why that resonates with them.
The two things going on in this show are like men and women. Can they be friends though? And women, but can they have it all? It really does feel like they wrote this check 20 years ago and someone just now cashed it.
No, it's seriously because it's the producers who are trying to sign it. Like, that's why this is on Apple and fucking Primo is on Freevee.
Freevee, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. It should be the other way around. This should have been the show that I checked out on Freevee and I was like, oh, good people. Why did they make this?
Yeah.
Whereas Primo should be the, oh yeah, Apple picked this because they also found Ted Lasso and they know how to find good comedy. Like this, it's weird.
Yeah, and it's because it's a harder sell to. You can sell a Mr. Corman pitch of like, I want to make a show that's just about kind of nothing except for maybe like the just genuine kind of weird struggles of life, but not really a struggle because I've never struggled in my entire fucking life. So yeah, and I feel like a lot of the content we see is because executives and TV people, producers, legitimately don't know how to connect with a regular audience and don't have actual problems. Or at least ones that can a poorer class can relate to.
Yeah. All right. That'll about take covers for this week. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Les.
Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, dudes.
Thanks to our guest star, Melissa. And thanks to the ATX folks, as always, for getting us our press passes and letting us take in their amazing festival. And thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our patrons. A reminder, you can go to patreon.com/tvdudes and pay us that $1 an episode and hear us talk about any number of things, including this week, what is sure to be a long love fest about Across the Spider-Verse. At least for me. I don't know how my co-anchors feel about it. We'll find out in just a few minutes.
I'm kidding. It's fucking awesome.
Until next time.
What up, Danger?
Dudes up!
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.